How's it going, YouTube? It's been a while since I made a voiceover commentary, but I'm excited to be back because we're going to start a new series of me updating you weekly on my training. So right now I'm running a divot block, deload plus pivot, and I'm experimenting with different movements for a non-primary movement. So I'm working arms right now because in this divot block, I'm going to be working hypertrophy for the next 8 weeks. So right now I'm mini cutting, but eventually I'm going to stop mini cutting in like two weeks, and then I'm going to be back in the surplus. And so I'm getting used to these new movements. I'm doing a jam press. I haven't run these for a whole lot of time, so I'm still kind of new doing them, but I'm doing it free weight because I kind of want to go back to what was much simpler times and what you could train differently for different strength measurements. I'm not training just for hypertrophy, as a lot of you know, obviously. I'm power building. And so this movement is actually for my divot block because it's not quite a bench press. It's not quite a skull crusher. It's a primary movement, and so it could be replaced not one-to-one with a bench, but pretty close to an alternative movement, so I could get rid of some of that adaptive resistance from benching like 4 times a week. And so I'm starting something a little bit different just to freshen up, but we'll see after as my secondary movement is close grip bench. So is it that much different? Not really, but I'm ending up changing the order to have a little bit more fun with this block and to get a little bit of a different stimulus out of training for triceps. I also decided to take a little bit of a step back from controlling an extreme tempo on every single movement that there is. Now, don't get me wrong, you should control the tempo when it comes to machine movements and guided path movements, especially movements that are there meant for hypertrophy. I think you should not sacrifice form. But when it comes to movements that relatively have a poor stability overall, I think just focusing on the eccentric could be potentially a limiting factor to how much effort you could put into a set, which goes back to the whole argument of training like a jacked idiot or train like a super skinny science-based lifter that's super knowledgeable, quote-unquote knowledgeable. Obviously, I think there's a fine middle ground, and so I decided to loosen up my form for the free weight stuff. I don't think my form's horrible. Also, my form's not the strictest for eccentric loading, but it's pretty typical for bodybuilding technique. And I think overall, it's probably better than most bodybuilders. My elbows aren't flying through the roof while I'm doing these curls. I'm staying in a good position. I'm starting to get the shakes. I'm making sure that my elbows are in place as I'm curling, and I'm not pulling my elbows too high in front of me so that I'm not loading the anterior delt. I'm trying to keep the elbows in place and to control the eccentric. Obviously, you could say that you control the eccentric better. I want to milk the crap out of these reps. I want to put all the effort that I could. I want to go to shaken failure. I want intensity to be so damn good that it's not even a question whether I work the arm enough. And spoiler, I definitely achieved my goal. And I don't think you should do this for every single workout, but I think there's a time and a place for when you need to train hard and just say, fuck the eccentric. Because maybe it's holding you back, because stability is a component that we always seem to forget when it comes to high intensity training with free weight movements. Now granted, if you're borderline an injury because you're like slingshotting your reps and you're all over the place, yeah, no shit, don't do that. I'm just saying control the eccentric. Don't focus on being the slowest eccentric as possible if it's holding back potential reps in the tank. But I really think it's a case by case scenario on who should and who shouldn't train like this. I think the more advanced you are, the more lenient you should be with your technique, because sometimes the stabilizers give out before the actual prime muscle gives out, or maybe it's just too much on the heart, systemically speaking. And then you're in this awkward place where you're considering to do another set because you don't know if you hit enough of that muscle. So that's exactly what I'm trying to work right now in this divot block, is to try to turn up the intensity without completely ditching form, but also loosening up form so I could have the most out of my reps while I train for free weight movements. And I'm not saying this is an absolute that everyone should train like this is how you have to train 24/7. I'm just saying that's how I want to train now because I'm running this pivot block, and I think the benefit to getting the progress in my physique will speak for itself if it makes a big difference within this 8-week divot. So I'm training like a bodybuilder for now with some heavy weights, high intensity training, a little bit less strict form, which is a pretty big contrast compared to the last 3 months of training where I'd spend a lot of my intensity, my heavy loading in the beginning of my workout, and it'd start to fade just because realistically, it's hard to keep that high level intensity. So naturally, you're just gonna be doing less. You're gonna be pushing with less effort because you're kind of spending that systemic fatigue in the first like 20 to 40 minutes of your workout. Now that I'm doing this divot, I'm not going as hard on SBD. I'm kind of pacing myself earlier in the workout so that I can increase intensity as I prolong the workout, and I'm definitely noticing that. You can see that with my arm training, it's a lot harder than it was in the past 3 months. So for now, let's build some meaty ass triceps. This cable, I'm not a huge fan of it. I like the longer cable. And that little attachment I had that I made a YouTube short on, yeah, that got stolen at the Air Gym. I'm a little salty. I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy another one yet. But it shouldn't be an excuse not to train your ass off, even if you don't have the most optimal equipment. And maybe searching to do things the optimal way all the time might be making your training less optimal. Subconsciously, you might be thinking that a little bit of form breakdown is bad for your gains. I don't know, it's a case-by-case scenario. Another thing I want to bring up is that I'm now working on an 8-day split. So I'm still training 6 days a week, but my split works on 8 days, so I can have a little bit more recovery for my legs. What tends to happen when I mini cut, my legs shrivel up because the training intensity overall drops because I enter my leg sessions not recovered well, historically speaking. So the thinking is that now that I have more time between my leg days, I could train my legs harder, have better recovery, have better progress compared to the traditional 7-day split. Now I wish I could show you a physique update and how I'm looking, but I didn't feel comfortable enough to do it at this gym at this time. It was a little too packed, the gym, but I still got a decent amount of weight to lose. My end goal weight for this mini cut is around 215 pounds in the morning, and I probably won't move too far above that after losing the initial amount of weight, as I want to see how much lean mass I could put on with this style of training in actually higher caloric intake. So yeah, based on the last couple of months, I'm pretty hopeful that I'm going to make some progress, just like I did for powerlifting. Made a lot of strength gain when I went up in weight, and so I'm hoping to gain a lot of lean size, then cut down and have a crazy physique. And when I start to eat a little bit more, I'm going to try hitting some big numbers with squat, bench, deadlift. Might even compete in summer, not totally decided yet. But if you have any specific questions at this point, please drop a comment below. Like this video if you liked it. If I should change up the style, maybe do a vlog style of this video. Also want to let you guys know that this coaching application's open until middle of February. And that's about it. Peace out.